So today's training is installing an 1.5-inch valve on a 2-inch mainline pipe. If you guys want to start, we'll cut a piece of pipe that'll fit in this trench here that we have. Yeah, so it's all dug out, about a foot deep here, and then the valve box obviously excavated a little bit deeper. That way we can end up backfilling with stone. So first thing we want to do now that we have, the simulation of our pipe in the ground for mainline, we'll take our T and all our fittings we're going to need, and we'll start wrapping the fittings. And when we do Teflon for the seal, does anyone know why we use Teflon on the threads?
So it doesn't leak.
So it doesn't leak. Yeah, so
Plastic on plastic wouldn't be a good seal.
yeah, so all the threads for like irrigation pipe is called NPT, National Pipe Thread. So the idea of it is it starts narrow where you first start the thread, and then it gets thicker as you go down that piece of pipe. So in theory, it's supposed to be self-sealing, but we use different sizes and different schedules. So like the ball valve is schedule 40 PVC, the gray nipples are schedule 80. So it doesn't ever actually seal itself. So we use the Teflon, wrap it around 7 times is kind of like the rule of thumb that we use. And then you always want to make sure as you're putting all the fittings in, you do it by hand, get it threaded correctly, tighten it by hand, and then you want to get, pliers, channel lock, something like that on it. Yeah, so while Kevin does all the threads, we'll go over kind of the gluing and priming process. So I know we all call it glue, but technically it's PVC cement. So it's not glue where it's like Elmer's glue, you're just sticking 2 things together. You're making like a chemical bond that fuses the pipes together. So we prime it first. It gives the cement a surface to stick to, but it also like kind of melts the exterior of the pipe. That way that cement can actually bond to it chemically. Yeah. A couple of the bigger things you're looking for is making sure there's no dirt or like ink markings left on the pipe like there is. I don't know if you want to. Yeah, so you want to make sure all that ink is removed when we're priming it. Another rule of thumb for all white pieces like that are brand new, fresh, again, 7 times around with the primer. It actually says it right on the bottle. When you prime it, you have to make sure that pipe is still like softened by the primer. So you can't prime something like an hour ahead of time because that pipe hardens back up again. So you want to make sure it's still soft but not dripping wet. So it's kind of like within 30 seconds of using the primer. Give it like 10 seconds to stop dripping, but within 30 seconds of using it to be able to put the glue on it. So if you want to prime both pieces. Yeah, so usually when we'll prime pieces, we'll do, hit primer on both fittings that we're gluing together and then hit the glue like Chike's doing now. And when you insert the 2 pieces together, we always insert and then give it like a 1/4 to a 1/2 twist. That way, if there was any piece that you happen to miss when you're swinging around with that glue, it kind of fills that gap. All right, so if you want to grab pipe wrench and stuff and start putting some of the valve fittings together. So obviously you guys know valve, solenoid side is the outside. This side's where the water comes in. Most valves will show like an arrow that indicates flow. These ones actually do not, but
Yeah, I go by solenoid.
Yeah, solenoid's the zone side, non-solenoid's the mainline side. So I want to, actually Chike, if you want to grab the T and Sawzall, and then we'll kind of mark out and cut where this is going to go. And then you want to make sure where you're cutting, that T lines up like dead center of where you've excavated for the valve box. That way you don't end up having to dig out more. And you always want the cut to be flush, straight, not at an angle. And then obviously there's always the PVC burrs and a little piece of PVC pipe that end up inside. You always want to clean that up, usually with a rag, and then clean out the best you can that inside of that pipe. And then same process here, priming the fittings, gluing, and then holding. All right. And while Chike does that, we can build out our valve setup. You have your male adapter that comes out to your poly zone lines, and this will be that black poly pipe. Yeah, it goes to the heads, put clamps on it, heat it to get on the fitting. Whenever we're doing new installs, we always put a PVC shutoff that goes inside the valve box. Anyone want to give a reason why we do that?
In case we have to work on the valve, right?
Yeah, so in case we have to work on the valve. So over time, debris will get in the main line and end up getting into the valves, and the valve won't be able to shut. So debris gets on that diaphragm, it goes to turn off, gets hung up, can't turn off. So rather than going and turning off the well or the water source, opening that valve and letting it drain for, I mean, in some cases it could be a couple hours depending on location. We install these ball valves, that way you can actually just close it right at the valve. You're talking about 5 to 10 seconds of drain time versus a couple hours in some situations. So it's to make flushing the valves out when we clean them easier. So same sort of deal, instead of having to pop open the valve, now you have to have 2 guys. You have to have one at the valve box, another person at the water source, turn the water on. Now you have a phone or water, walkie-talkie involved, communicating back and forth. Hey, pop it on for 5 seconds. You turn it on for 5 seconds, and now you have, another couple 100 gallons of water that's going to end up flowing out of that valve. When you're dealing with threaded fittings, you always want to do all the threads together first, and then gluing in that piece last. That way you can build the whole valve assembly. And then when it comes time to glue, you're just sliding that glue piece in. Because we glued it in first, now you have to thread in everything after the fact, which is easy with the nipples, easy with the ball valve. As you can see, valve's a little bit bigger. So now you'll end up having to dig out a little bit more of where that valve box is going to go to be able to actually get that valve to spin. So I want to build the valve.
Sure.
Yep, so go a long piece first. And that's to get that valve further off of the actual mainline piping. That way mowers drive over it. The off chance a car drives over it if it's on the side of the road, it's not breaking the actual pipe itself. Yep. So next would be setting our valve box. So when we put in valve boxes, obviously we're going to measure, make sure we're at the right depth. So for these valve boxes, obviously we measured this all out ahead of time, so we knew where we were going to end up setting it is level with grade. And then we excavated like 3 more extra inches to be able to put bricks to brace the valve box, and then also be able to backfill with 3/4 stone. Acts as drainage, helps keep the valve box clean. If you end up having to service it, you don't have a bunch of dirt in there. Stone kind of keeps all that dirt from getting in. All right, so we're setting 1 brick on each corner. Make sure that valve's centered inside. So pop that top off, set it, and then, so you want to make sure you're going to end up at grade. So this will have to come up a little bit. Make sure these bricks are on each corner. And then most important part, aside from grade, is making sure the valve box is kind of centered on the ball valve and the actual electric valve. That way if you need to service it, you're not,
Solenoid Under the ridge.
Yeah, under the ridge of the thing. The handle of the ball valve is touching the valve box. You can't actually open or close it all the way. So just making sure all that's centered. Yeah, so those bricks will give it more surface area. That way it doesn't sink over time. So once you have your grade figured out and all that, this is a little low, so you'd spend more time backfilling it, but for the sake of training and getting this over with, we're at grade. So once you get grade, you got the stones in and everything. Now you want to backfill the valve box with your stone here. You just want it to come up to the bottom of the valve. You don't want it to surround the valve. You don't want it to surround the ball valve, because then same issue with the dirt. You just end up having to scoop all that out to be able to service it anyways. Trying to be careful here. Yeah, so it'll end up looking something like that if you guys all want to take a peek. And then, so I like to keep the valve cover off, at least while I fill in the surrounding area, just to make sure, like as you're putting it in, you're packing everything down, it doesn't end up shifting around. If you guys want to grab a shovel, kind of backfill around. So every few inches that you do backfilling, you want to tamp it down. So like on the exterior side, you can, obviously use your foot and body weight to tamp it down. Sometimes in these tighter spots, you take like your shovel. Yeah, exactly. Flip it over, tamp down in there. You can't get your foot. That way you get good compaction. Valve box doesn't shift around. And then once you get to a point where, everything's kind of filled in, you don't have to worry about it shifting. So right now, actually, then I just throw that cover back on. And then if this was an actual install, now you'd actually fill it all back in. Anyone know how long we keep the water source off for after we use
12?
primer and cement?
Technically, 12 hours. It says 30 minutes to 2 hours.
That's what the bottle says. Never trust the bottle. Yeah, 12 to 24 hours. I've given it like an hour before, and following all right within the specs of what it says, and yeah, it fails, pops off, and now you have to do the whole thing again. Anyone remember how many times we put that Teflon tape around the nipples? 7 times. Yeah. Obviously, if this was a real install, there'd be wire. You'd wire up the valve to either decoder or multi-strand wire or whatever we're doing for that situation.
Well done.